Bitcoin, we start with daily chart, and if you refer to my last analysis, there is not much changes, and we discuss how we can look for the trade from here. Anyway, we didn't have any trade for long term, and as I mentioned, my last analysis, any trade will be as a short term, and we are at the based on daily chart, we are looking at this flat. That's why we mentioned this one is expanding, and this one it can expand before we get the reversal as a long term. Anyway, still we are within the correction. And right now, if we put this loan relative to the previous one, and if we refer to the indicators, if we put this one in relative to what we have here, we can look for the divergence. The only thing is we have this at the middle, we get this movement, and it depends on the traders, the way they want to look for the divergence, whether they want to look at the divergence in this way or not. But if we move to the MACD, it will be more clear. We see we have a divergence. That's why in the bigger picture, if we refer to the MACD, we see we have a divergence, and we want to see whether we can look for the reversal or not. But as I mentioned, my last analysis, even in this analysis, still you are within this downtrend before we get the reversal. That means most of the trade will be short term. Okay, and how deep this one can go with the breakout of this correction, we can expect at least the price drop to 14,600. All right. And at this point, if we refer to the indicators, if we put this low in relative to the previous one, we don't see really good information as a divergence for the reversal, because one of the indicators showing as a divergence, but the MACD, we cannot refer to the divergence. That's why if we get one more drop, that means we can expect to get the next drop. That's why we can expect how deep this one can go. With the next drop, at least we can expect the price drop to 14,600, following by 12,500 and 10,700. All right. That's why if you want to look for buy as a reversal, the best thing is if we get the next reversal and next drop, because for sure we will get the divergence based on the lower time frame. All right. And even at this point, we can look at this one as a flat. You cannot put this one in relative to what we had here. All right. That's why the possibility for this one for the next drop is very high. If anyone wants to look for buy as a long term, they need to be aware about this. All right. Because we should know that we can expect this one continue reverse as a corrective before we see the next drop. All right. Now the question is whether this is the one is going to go as a one more drop before we see the reversal or not. And mostly internally we can look for the flat. That means at least we can look for one move up before we get the next drop. Then any trade for buy within this one will be short term, and we have to look for the trade setup based on lower time frame like 1 hour, and based on daily chart we can expect this one turn to a correction. Then we can expect for the at least next drop, and by then, and that means if we get one more drop, we can look for 14,600. And at this point, we don't have really good trade. I mean, we don't have really any trade setup based on daily chart. And as I mentioned, any trade for buy will be short term. And if you refer to my last analysis, we discussed about here. All right, the price dropped more than what we expected, but it couldn't tag the previous low. Because I mentioned we can get the one more drop, we get one move up. This is what we get. That's why we mentioned if we want to see whether the price can break this zone as a sharp move or not. If the price could break this zone as a sharp move, then we can look for continuation. If not, then still we are within this correction. And right now I'm looking at this one as a first move. This is as a flat. How deep this one can go? I'm looking for 20K before we get the one move up. Any trade for buy within this range will be a short term, and still we are looking for 22780 following by 24200 as a short-term target. No, based on forward chart, I don't see any trade setup yet, but right now we want to see whether we can look at this one as a flat, as a first correction for one move up. And as I mentioned, any trade for buy within this range will be a short-term. Based on forward chart, I don't see any trade setup yet. And if I move to 1 hour chart, similar explanation. No changes. All right. Even if you refer to the indicators, we cannot look for the divergence internally. We see the divergence here, but we cannot rely on that. That means if anyone wants to look for buy from here, now we want to see whether the price can reverse without the breakout of 20K or not. Because if the price could break the 20K, mostly we can look for the next. I mean, we can expect for the price continue and somewhere and tag 18,600 or 18,650. All right. By the way, how to look for trade at this point? I don't have any trade setup. Having entry above here, which is somewhere around 21177, is not a really good idea, unless we look for the reversal as a sharp move flag before we take the trade. And as I mentioned, we don't have any trade setup at this point. And if anyone wants to look for the trade as a long term, we are looking for this one. We want to see how deep this one can go. That can be. That means if the price reverses as a corrective, it can give us better opportunity for the next drop before we see the reversal. We are not going to look for the trade as a long term within this correction. Any trade will be a short term, and we need to be aware about this. All right. Anyway, we don't have any trade set up for buy as a long term. Any trade will be a short term, and still we are within the correction. But what we are looking for, we're looking for the reversal. In this case, we just follow the chart. If I see any update, I will give. And since we are within the correction and we don't see really good movement as a sharp move, that's why we don't have really much update, but from this week, I try to cover more. And if I see any update or any trade setup, then I will share. Thanks.